গাইছে ছন্দ ভগত বৃন্দ আরতি তোমার, গাইছে ছন্দ ভগত বৃন্দ আরতি তোমার, জয় জয় আরতি তোমার, হর হর আরতি তোমার, শিব শিব আরতি তোমার। তোমার त्वमचलो गुणजित् गुणेभ्यः नाक्तं दिवां सकरुणं तव पादपद्मं मोहं कषं बहुकृतं न भजे यतोऽहं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो भक्तिर्भगश्च भजनं भवभेदकारी गच्छन्तलं सुविपुलं गमनाय तत्त्वं वक्त्रोद्धृतोऽपि हृदये न मे भाति किञ्चित् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो तेजस्तरन्ति तरसा त्वयि तृप्ततृष्णां रागे कृते ऋतपथे त्वयि रामकृष्णे मर्त्यामृतं तव पदं मरणोर्मि नाशं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो कृत्यं करोति कलुषं कुहकान्तकारे शान्तं शिवं सुविमलं तव नाम नाथ यस्मादहं तु अशरणो जगदेकगम्यं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः सर्वमङ्गल माङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते सृष्टिस्थिति विनाशानां शक्ति भूते सनातने गुणातीते Gato dinarto paritrana parayane sarvas sharti hare devi narayani namostute Jayonarayani namostute Jayonarayani namostute Jaya Narayani namostute Jaya Narayani namostute Jai Mahamai ki Jai Jai Bhagwan Shri Ramakrishna Dev ki Jai Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji ki Jai
Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Sure Satchit Sukhasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So, hope everybody had a good puja vacation. Time to return to our classes. So, this is the last stretch of this lecture, Maya and Illusion of Vivekananda. And I think what we had established as an experiential fact is these contradictions in our experience. Yeah? Knowledge along with ignorance. I mean, every time we know something, we are bounded by the unknown on all sides. Every time there is a source of joy, there comes a source of lack of joy or unhappiness or sorrow along with it. Anytime we think of ourselves as existent, and then we try to analyze it, and we find that even even what we call existence is not clear. It's a mixture of existence and non-existence. And these contradictions, these confusions, define our existence. This existential fact, the fact that our existence is defined in terms of pairs of opposites. The intellect seeks clarity. It seeks to unravel itself from these contradictions. But what it says, what our experiences tell us, is that every bit of our day-to-day existence is fraught with these contradictions. This was the existential fact that so far in this lecture we have discussed and established. Okay? And this particular aspect of human existence has a name, and just that name is Maya. Okay? These contradictions that define our day-to-day existence is what is called Maya. No doctrine, no philosophy, it is not something that can be used to explain various things. It is just a name, a summary of various aspects of our existence in which these two kinds of experience, contradictory experiences, go hand in hand. This aspect of our life is only called Maya. So if somebody tells you that, look, this is because of Maya, that is a complete misuse of the expression of the term. It is not supposed to be a doctrine, it is not supposed to be a philosophy, it's just supposed to be a focusing of attention on one aspect of our experience. In other words, it is not an intellectualization, it is not a rationalization, but a way of collating various aspects of our existence together and saying that this one common feature that they all share is this contradictory nature, more precisely, this self-contradictory nature. This is a summary of what we have discussed so far in this particular lecture of Vivekananda, Maya and Illusion. Fine. What were the illustrations that were given? Every time we seek unhappiness, there's a source of unhappiness that comes along with it. Every time we seek knowledge, ignorance comes along with it. Every time we seek existence, non-existence comes along with it. Every time we seek freedom, bondage comes along with it. In other words, the way our minds are constituted has this principle of duality, these dual pairs, these contradictions intrinsically built into it. Hence, any worldview that we have in terms of our common sense is rife with these contradictions. This is the existential fact that is summarized in this word Maya. So if you unravel the meaning of that word, not in terms of doctrines, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of rationalization, but as a statement of fact, as a statement of existential fact, then this is the particular feature of our existence, these contradictions that word summarizes. That is all there is to it. All right, fine. So now here is we had come till here. Observation. It's basically a collection of a certain kind of data from our personal experience. Fine. But then the question comes that, look, if any seeking of happiness brings inevitably in its train unhappiness, if the seeking of joy brings in its train sorrow, if the seeking of knowledge brings in its train ignorance, if the seeking of freedom brings in its train bondage, then why pursue these things at all? Even at the level of ethics, if the seeking of good brings in its train evil, then why do good? This is the central question that is going to be posed now. All right? Yes, we accept, we understand that as a datum, as a fact, life is full of these pairs of opposites, these contradictions. The question then becomes, why should we seek the positive? Because the positive, whichever one of these pairs of opposites you pick up, there's a positive aspect, there's a negative aspect. So the question becomes, why should we then try for the positive? Why attempt to do good? This is the crudest and simplest form of the question. If good and bad are inseparably intertwined, as Vivekananda has said before, there is nothing called absolute good, there's nothing called absolute bad, but just some kind of framework that we construct in our heads which has no absolute reality. If that be a statement of fact, why seek good? This is the question that we are about to address. In other words, what is the practical utility, the practical significance of this understanding that our life is defined in terms of contradictions? This is the question that we are about to address now. And he starts off by this. Shall we not work to do good then? The same question, but this is how he formulates it. Shall we not work to do good then? And his answer, yes, with more zest than ever. But what this knowledge will do for us is to break down our fanaticism. This is the greatest benefit. You see, fanatics are the least questioning of people. They have taken some particular kind of a resolution that, look, this is what it is, and then no questions are entertained. If somebody questions those beliefs, such a person is bad, kill him off, finish him off. In other words, what fanatics really dread is the weakness of their foundations of hypothesis. You ask questions, they get angry. Why? Because insecurity of belief is exposed. Questions essentially ask for a more fundamental explanation of a certain belief system. And then when you say, oh, wow, but why do you say such and such thing is the case? See, people are quite often say, okay, why has this happened? Oh, it is God's will. As if that's supposed to be an explanation. The ordinary thing, the atheist says that it's all by chance. The theist says it's God's will. Both statements have equal explanatory power. They do not actually explain anything in terms of more fundamental notions. They do not give us, neither of these explanations give us any deeper understanding of the world or of phenomena. internal or external. What does this particular understanding that our existence is fraught, is rife with contradictions, what does it give us? This particular knowledge, it breaks down our fanaticism. In other words, it challenges these doctrines that we believe without questioning. It asks us to examine the foundations of our thought process. And during that examination, many things are recast. Several pieces of garbage that we hold very dear to ourselves just have to be thrown away. With that removal of trash, that removal of beloved beliefs without reason, what happens? The mind becomes freer. This greater degree of freedom is exactly what is the lack of fanaticism. And so the answer to this question, shall we not work to do good then? The answer is yes, but without fanaticism. Okay? What is there behind this question, shall we not work to do good then? Somehow or the other, that question presupposes that a person must take this idea that doing anything is for some good as an unchallengeable axiom. What this idea, this observation, these data that our life is fraught with contradictions basically exposes in front of us is that it is not that good and bad are totally separate things. They are obverse, reverse of the same coin. Which means that the belief system on which you worked so far, that before doing something we must believe that it is good and unmitigated good, that way of thinking is being challenged. And as soon as a challenge is thrown to our old habits, what happens is that there's a reaction. No, I want to keep on holding on to such and such habit. And when somebody asks us the questions and we are not willing to throw it away, what happens? We don't have a reason to give, we don't have an answer, so we get angry. It's a sure sign of an insecurity of belief, nothing else. So, once we understand this, that doing good cannot be any absolute entity, and we need to inquire further into this, that any so-called good act must bring in its train something bad. Whenever we understand that, what happens is our fanaticism receives a blow. Our unexamined beliefs receive a blow. And if we are mature about it, then we go back and reflect and ask ourselves the question, why am I reacting emotionally to this setup? Why can't I examine it calmly? Why can't I question it with a view towards ascertaining the truth? And then the fanaticism crumbles. Fanaticism is an aspect of the mind which is highly material. These are the same people who are highly attached to their bodies. In other words, these are people who can use their bodies for either great good or great evil. without having the freedom to choose. Fanaticism is necessarily accompanied by a lack of personal freedom. It comes with an inability to examine something from a detached perspective. It's in this Shankara's language, it is a viveka of an extreme form, lack of discrimination, lack of analysis of a fundamental form. That is what fanaticism is about. And so, this knowledge that our life is fraught with contradictions asks questions of that and basically weakens our fanaticism. The mind becomes free and liberal. Liberal, the word literally comes from liberation, right? Liberated. What does it mean? It means it opens up. It is not clinging to some particular pet personal ideas and dogmas, some pet personal identifications. These are what are opened up, examined, and then put in their place. It does not mean everything is thrown away into the garbage bin. It just means that they are examined, and that which is found wanting is just put on a shelf with saying, look, this is a particular belief system which is found wanting. That's all. It's a statement of fact. No more. Then he elaborates. The Englishman, this was the time when India was ruled by the British. Severe mistrust on both sides, and hatred and anguish. Yeah? And so he illustrates this. The Englishman will no more be a fanatic and curse the Hindu. Which means what? Essentially, at that point of time, it was said this was the white man's burden to lord over us colored people. Somehow or the other, there is a certain ethic there which is superior to ours. This is ridiculous. So, this fanaticism receives a blow. Somebody is born in one particular geographical part of the world is just a fact. It's trying to seek something more fundamental, some explanation in terms of things we can never know, is again a part of cultivating some narrative, some superstition. Instead of starting with incontrovertible facts, the mind, the weak mind, the non-analytical mind, the mind that does not have the strength to analyze, immediately jumps to some fictitious explanation which can neither be proved nor disproved. Instead of saying that, look, this part of it is the fact. Now let us try to find an explanation for this. Instead of taking that clear, rational approach, there's an emotional jump to some rigmarole of superstitions. Yeah? Here, what this questioning is supposed to do is supposed to make our minds clear, rational, free. Okay? This highest aspect of reason is what this analysis is about. This that we call viveka is really what purified reason is about. Not reason caught by emotions, not reason caught by various bodily concerns, but this analytical faculty that is free from them. As I've said before, this is one of the highest products of evolution. That's why the human forebrain is what really is most involved in this analytic thinking. Okay? That's the aspect, the most evolved aspect, most biologically evolved aspect of our beings is what is cultivated, what is nurtured by this questioning. And as a result, what happens? There will be, and so he will learn to respect the customs of different nations. We will no longer go on chest thumping like a bunch of gorillas, saying that, look, this, my nation, is better than everybody else's. This is just a piece of crass stupidity. Every nation has such people. So it's just, but the common feature that any person from any nation, when he starts chest thumping and declaring without reason that this nation is the best in the world, be rest assured that these people, independent of which country they come from, are next door to these fanatics. They have not examined their belief systems. They have not bothered to find out what is really common between human beings and human beings. Such are the most provincial of people. They have not bothered to open their eyes to the vast sections of humanity that inhabit this one planet that we all live on. And instead of bothering to find that which is common, they are more interested in finding that which is different. And trying to find that which is different in its extreme form is the statement that I am different from everybody else. What is that? That is crude identification with the body in its extreme form. It is the opposite of whatever we call spirituality or spiritual practice. You don't have to put any theological coloration to that. The spirit of the human being, the essential aspect of our beings, the noblest aspirations, that is what the spirit of the human being is about. It is not the individuated body. Whereas these fanatics, these chest-thumping people who keep claiming that my nation is better than the rest, kill off everybody else, this kind of fanaticism is the antithesis of any kind of seeking spiritual urge. It is not just against spirituality, it is grossly irrational. So these people have neither, inasmuch as they subscribe to these prehistoric beliefs, they are neither spiritual nor rational. Hence, the only things that they end up being capable of really are the baser passions, anger, hatred, etc., etc., fear, and so on. It's this trio of feelings on which this entire cult of fanaticism is based. The rest of it are labels. Yeah, the rest of it are labels. It could be a country, it could be an organized religion, it could be a particular community, it could be anything. But just a label which imposed on ourselves that, look, I belong to this community and this community is better than every other community. No reason. Reason has no entry there. Yeah? It's some mindless thing which we feed our base brain, our base emotions, and give ourselves an excuse to feel superior to everybody else. That's all. It's at the end of it, it's crude body consciousness, nothing else. What is the opposite? What happens when this fanaticism ceases? The person becomes less fanatical. What happens then? He will learn to respect the customs of different nations and start seeing that each community has a certain raison d'etre, a certain nobility, a certain grandeur, every community. And this nobility is what holds people together. Instead of doing this chest-thumping gorilla or chimpanzee-like behavior, one will start seeing the nobler aspects of different communities. There will be less of fanaticism and more of real work. And then he says, fanatics are supposed to have a lot of energy and supposed to do a lot of work. Well, that's a misconception. And this is what Vivekananda says here. Fanatics cannot work. They waste 3/4 of their energy. Why? Because most of the energy is driven towards the body. So most of it gets wasted. It's not trapped. It's not tapped and refined into something superior, something stronger. So it just gets dissipated through friction in our nerves. What is the opposite? It is the level headed, calm, practical man who works. Work comes from level headedness without getting excited, but by being able to do some detached, calm analysis. So, it started off with the question, why should we do good? The reason is that the much better work is done, much more efficient work is done when this fanaticism ceases. When this unquestioning belief that something is good and something else, anything else is not good, this stupidity, this moha, this aviveka, this goes. And analysis comes in its place. And one understands that this bad and this good must go on together because that's the way our minds are constituted. What is happening internally is that the person is moving a little behind his or her own mind, is being able to ask questions of certain things in our mind which we took to be fundamental but are not. This is what happens. So the power to work will increase from this idea. This is the kind of trick that our mind keeps playing on us. It's habituated to a certain way of thinking and therefore tries to justify itself by saying that this kind of belief, unquestioning, and actually at the end of the day, false belief in something being an absolute good is what leads to a lot of work. What Vivekananda is saying is that is complete garbage. It's rubbish. It's false. What is the fact then? Well, once this fanaticism is removed from the system, at least to some extent, the mind becomes freer. It does not waste its energy behind all these stupid belief systems. What it does is does its work more calmly, more efficiently, without wastage of energy. So the power to work will increase from this idea. Knowing that this is the state of things, there will be more patience. The sight of misery or of evil will not be able to throw us off our balance and make us run after shadows. Okay? So, here is the thing. I mean, so the first thing that he says is that it challenges our misconception that if we don't believe in absolute good, absolute bad, that our power to work for good, power to work away from good, away from bad is going to decrease. He says completely the opposite is true. Our brains and our hearts and our minds will work much better, much more efficiently when these fanaticisms, these irrational convictions, unchallenged, unquestioned, are removed from the system, when we have accepted that these opposites are part and parcel of our existence. We'll return to this next time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.